What do you do when you feel like you're rejected by someone that you really love and care about? Someone that a relationship with them means so much to you, but all of a sudden you feel like there's a wall that's been put up and there's a coldness between you. This is a scary thing. So I want to tell you a funny thing that happened with my wife and I the other day. We have three grandkids. One of them, his name is Jace. He's just over 2 years old, and he was at our house, and he was in one room playing with a relative, and we hadn't seen him yet. So my wife and I, her grandma name is Mimi, and I am Chief as grandpa. We go walking into the room and we say, "Hey, Jace." And he looks at us and he says, "Mimi, Chief." And of course, your heart kind of goes, "Oh, that's just so fun to hear that." But then he finishes his thought and says, "Go away." It was like, wait a second here. Mimi, Chief, go away. He had what he wanted in that room. The person he was playing with and what he was doing, he didn't want a crowd of people. He wanted us to go away. You know, humans do this to each other. Even humans that love each other do this to each other. Every parent has experienced their wonderful child at different ages turning on them and saying rude and hurtful things. Maybe they were two, maybe they were three, five, maybe they were seven, maybe they were 12. Probably every 12-year-old at some point says something very harsh to their parents. I hate you. I wish I didn't live here. A 16-year-old, the same thing. When human beings reject each other, here's a point I want to make. Oftentimes, even when it can be so hurtful, what if it's not necessarily about you, but it just involves you? Jace the other day, when he made his comment, Mimi Chief, go away, it really wasn't about us. It just involved us. Now, at this stage in life, neither one of us got offended at what Jace said. But if I, as a human being, if I'm kind of living on edge, if I'm frustrated myself as who I am as a person, if I'm not enjoying my life, it might be very easy for me to be offended when someone that I'm trying to love says something or does something that is rejecting me, something hurtful to me. A 16-year-old at some point is going to say something to their parents that's very disrespectful. And I'm not saying that as a parent you just overlook it. I'm just making the point that what they said might be about you. It might involve you, but it's really not about you. They said this what they said because they are frustrated with their life. They're bothered by what's going on in their life. They feel like people don't like them. They don't like themselves. They feel like life has become dull and they're just overall frustrated. And human beings, when they're frustrated, look for someone to lash out at. The point is not that we should overlook when our 16-year-old lashes out in some way, but maybe we can understand it better so we can respond better. Because if we get defensive against someone who seems to be being hurtful towards us, if we get defensive, we won't necessarily respond in a way to bring restoration or help to the situation. What I encourage you to do is do something counterintuitive. With Jace the other day, he said, Mimi Chief, go away. Well, later on that day, I did something that I know he can't resist. And I was close enough to the room he was in, and I yelled, Hey, Jace, come find me. I know he can't resist. He wants to come find me. He wants the thrill of the hunt. He wants that excitement and the fear and the nervousness he has when he thinks he's getting close, but he's not sure if I'm going to be there or not. He loves the thrill of the hunt. So he can't resist that. Notice I didn't to Jace say, Jace, it is so wrong for you to say go away to Mimi and Chief. I did something counterintuitive to draw him into doing something with me. And this is what we can do as adults. Frankly, even in a marriage, there are times when your spouse acts in ways that is rude or disrespectful or hurtful. Obviously, this is not the goal, but there are times in life, because we're human, that we're just we're at our max. Maybe work and other situations and things going on inside of ourselves has us kind of on the edge. And because of the how close a spouse is, that might be the person that we lash out at. This isn't a good thing. But the point of this is that if you're in a relationship with someone and they lash out in some way, I'm not saying that's okay, but what if we look past what they said and to look behind it? Because maybe we can do something to be helpful. And often to be helpful, it's doing something counterintuitive. The instinctual response to get defensive and to lash out back at them and to immediately go in hard and heavy and fix it usually makes things worse. Ultimately, whether it's a child you have or a spouse you have, or even an adult sibling, or even just a friend you have, ultimately, you want to help the relationship. And so to help the relationship, the thing to do is to not do a defensive thing, do a counterintuitive thing. I got a couple of magnets here. And you know that if you turn magnets and you get one turned the wrong way, they repel against each other. And this is what tends to happen in relationships. And the more that you want to force something to work, the more you want to fix something. Someone said something, we're going to make this right. It just makes the tension all the greater. But sometimes if we just give ourselves some space, what if we can do just a simple shift, just a little change in perspective, and enable a connection to happen? And so my point of this video is that all human beings, human beings in great relationships, with our kids, with our spouses, with our friends, there comes a time when something is just going on and the tension is mounting up. And what do you do with that? Instead of rushing in and using defensiveness to just fight against something, what if you understand something instead and do something counterintuitive that enables a connection to happen? Because normally in conflict, it's not really about you. It just involves you. And if you're able to kind of step to the side, you can find a helpful role that you can play in helping that relationship find connection. Now, I want to offer you a resource. We made a video course about how to be the hero during conflict. Because ultimately, most people, the reason we can't do relationships is because we fear conflict. If you fear conflict, ultimately you can't have relationships. You can want relationships, but if you fear conflict, you can't have a relationship of any kind of lasting quality with anybody, because conflict is a part of life. It's a part of every relationship. It's not because there's something wrong with a relationship that conflict happens. It's the fact that you have a relationship that conflict happens. And what we do courageously and with love is together we lean into conflict, and it's actually used for good. So that's a resource I'll put a link to that in the description of this video, but it's how to be the hero during conflict. Because so many people, we want love so desperately, we want great connection so desperately, but fearing conflict will prevent us from ever having the great connection and love that we want. But we don't have to live that way. We really don't. We do not have to live that way. You don't have to fear conflict, and you can be a person that lives with great connection with other people. I hope this has been helpful. And I like to produce content that helps people to live their life on purpose. The big three things in life for me are purpose, freedom, and love. I want to have these three things every day being lived out. And I want everyone to live their life with a sense of purpose and freedom and love with other people. So if this kind of content is helpful, put a like, all the things, subscribe, shoot me a comment. And the more that you support what I'm doing, the more that I can continue to put out content that helps and serves your life.